Hello, fellow light beings. This is Mahadeva, the Thunder Wizard. Welcome back to the channel. This is Solar Flash update for October 28th, 2023. We have a lunar eclipse, which is going to awaken some dark forces. I don't wish anything negative on anybody, but I do believe that more shocking things are going to come to planet Earth. And since we're on the end of the cycle, we first had the solar eclipse not too long ago, and now we're having the lunar eclipse. This tends to bring about revelations in sometimes a very shocking way, but especially with this one, what's going to come to light for hopefully most humans will become aware of what is really going on under the surface. We'll be able to see possibly more things in the spiritual realm coming through into our 3D experience. So there may be some shocking exposures of the negative forces that have been ruling our planet for a long time. So for me, this is October 28th. I'm here in Australia. If you're watching this live, it's still October 27th. For me, this is going to hit while I'm asleep. It's going to pass over me while, 4:30 in the morning while I'm sleeping. But for you, it might be at a different time. In any case, there's a lot of stuff going on. Before I get into that, tomorrow I am going to be sharing my experiences, so you can see my name there, at this Lakeside Contact. I don't think it's going to be a big event, but it's, if you're in Australia, Queensland area, and you want to come listen to me talk, there's the information right there. So yeah, let's talk about the eclipse. All right, so what we have happening here is that Rahu, which is the north node of the moon, which, as I've said before, I've come to realize isn't a real thing. Rahu and Ketu, these are refractions of Naga energy that get refracted into our orbit, and they reflect energies. The eclipses are real things, and the eclipse, of course, is the Earth gets between, what is it? The moon gets between the Earth and the, whatever. The Earth blocks the sun from hitting the moon. And so what does that mean? So first we need to understand what happens to us energetically and spiritually, psychologically when this happens. So the moon is the reflection of the sun. We wouldn't see the moon if there wasn't light hitting it and reflecting off of it. And the moon is the same as the mind. In fact, the word man, M-A-N, means moon. One of the original names for human beings in the Vedic tradition is Manu, Man. The name for the moon god in the ancient Norse tradition is Mani. So Man means mind. Mind is nothing more than a reflection of the spirit. The spirit is the sun. The sun is our soul. In fact, the word soul, S-O-U-L, when you look back in the Anglo-Saxon, in the Norse, it is S-A-W-U-L, Sawul. Sawul means sun, and it means soul. And it means that our ancestors knew when they were looking up at the sun was the external expression of the soul. So what we have here is a lunar eclipse, is that the soul is not being reflected in the mind. So the mind isn't able to perceive spirit. So the mind starts to go crazy. The mind doesn't function well if it's not connected to spirit. mental diseases, mental diseases, diseases of the mind, are when the human being is not connected to their soul for some reason. Usually there's some trauma that happens to them, and the result of trauma is we doubt our spiritual existence. That disconnects us from our soul. And when that happens, we have mental problems. We don't perceive reality correctly. Our emotions go haywire because our emotions are part of our mind. So this is what happens when we have these events. When we have lunar eclipses, we tend to have emotional issues. People tend to go bonkers and feel upset. All kinds of stuff happens. But also what is happening is that these mathematical points, because Rahu and Ketu are not actual physical planets that move around. They're mathematical points. But they are represented as a snake. Specifically, Rahu is the head of the snake and Ketu is the body of the snake. The snake that is being refracted and is really just a reflection in our atmosphere, energetic reflection, that snake is actually Nagas. So in this case, Vasuki. Vasuki is the serpent being that the gods and the demigods used in order to stir the ocean of milk, which then brought up to the surface the ambrosial nectar. Now it also brought up some poison. Poison in this case represents what happens to you mentally and emotionally when you are disconnected from your spirit. And sometimes there are things that are very healing that at high doses are toxic and poisonous and can kill you. But at the proper dosage can completely cure you of all kinds of things. I've talked about it, one of those things on my Rumble channel, one of the most recent ones. You can go look at it. That's something, if you take high doses of that, it can be extremely toxic, but at the right levels it will, it's been touted as a cure-all. So this is the poison we're talking about. The poison comes out of the fangs of the serpent, the Naga. And as you know, many medicines can be made from serpent poison, from the venom of serpents. So it's important to understand that what the Nagas bring are true understanding of reality. It just so happens that the true understanding of reality is toxic to our third dimensional experience. It is impossible. It is impossible to experience a Naga in their pure vibration without dying to your perception of the third dimension. This can be damaging. I can tell you from personal experience. If you go back and watch the video, How I Became an Extraterrestrial, if you were there on the channel during that time, you remember me taking at least a week off and saying, I can't make any videos, I can't function right now. And what had happened is not only was I psychologically fractured because I was trying to understand this new reality that was actual reality that was being revealed to me, and my third dimensional understanding of reality was being destroyed. It was so damaging to me that I gave myself the frozen shoulder. And to this day, even though I can still function 100%, I go to the gym and lift weights, my right arm is still just 5% weaker than my left arm. It's never completely recovered. And so that is a result of me, by the way, fighting what has been coming to me, which destroys this third dimensional reality. So the truth of the matter is, and again, we see this in the distorted myth of the Garden of Eden. Somebody asked me about that. By the way, if you have questions about what the Nagas are and what the serpent is, and you're new to my channel, I recommend everybody learn how to go into my channel and look at the playlist, but more importantly, learn how to search and put search terms in for a specific channel. If you don't know how to do that, you can Google it. Just Google how to search term somebody's YouTube channel, because there's a specific way, and you can find all of the things. You can find karma, reincarnation, Christianity, Garden of Eden, Nagas, serpents. If you type those in, you'll find hundreds of hours on my channel. So if you really want to know, that's where to go look at it. I'm happy to revisit things, and I may revisit some of these questions, but in the meantime, don't wait around for me to do that. But in that distorted mythology, which was not based on, let me just say what is mythology and what is not. True mythology are condensed spiritual teachings that are channeled to human beings from the light beings. The light beings are giving us truths and understandings in a way that we can incorporate it and meditate on it. And at higher levels, these myths can take you to the highest levels. And for the average person, it will help them live a spiritual, functional life. That is not what I'm talking about when I talk about the Garden of Eden. That mythology was not channeled. That mythology was taken from actual myths, which probably don't exist anymore, and was distorted and used for political purposes, masquerading as spirituality or religion. So the entire Abrahamic religion and all of the Abrahamic mythology, all of it is either completely fabricated or distorted from actual mythology, and it's designed to devalue you and control you. So, but even in that distorted mythology, which I believe the writers of the, what we call the Old Testament, I believe that they couldn't get rid of that because it was so ingrained in the population, the understanding of the serpent, and the serpent bringing wisdom and forbidden wisdom, and awakening to you of your true essence, your true spiritual divine essence. They couldn't get rid of it, so they tried to debunk it and devalue it. And what they did was they portrayed the serpent as being a messenger of evil. But his message was the same. They couldn't get rid of the message. And the message of the serpent in the Garden of Eden was, why can't you eat the fruit from the tree of life, the tree of knowledge? Why can't you? If you eat of that fruit, you will become like God. Now that by itself, that is actually a good thing, unless you adopt the assumption that the Abrahamic religions want you to assume, which is that you aren't divine, you are sinful, you are broken, you are less than, and God hates those things in you that are sinful. So you don't have the right to have pride in yourself. In fact, religion is big on this. I remember in church, you can't have pride in yourself. You can only have pride in God. You can't glorify yourself. You can only glorify God. If you accomplish something, you can't take any credit for it. You have to give God all the credit. You have to walk around with the cross on your back, and this, if you're Amish, you can't even wear buttons. You can't bring any attention to yourself. And the opposite is true. My Norse ancestors, when they were presented with this religion, and the priest would go to these polytheist, shamanic people, these warriors, and they would say, you have to accept Jesus, and then you can go to heaven. And there are records of them saying, well, will my ancestors be there? And they will say, no, your ancestors will be in hell. And they will go, well, I'd rather be in hell with my ancestors. Those people are noble. You're not. You're a liar. I don't want to be anywhere near you. Wherever they are, that's where I'm going. And the understanding of conquering your reality. Now, again, unfortunately, that was taken in a wrong way lots of times, conquering other people and taking other people's land. But the truth is, we're supposed to conquer our life, which means we take pride in our existence. We take pride in our spiritual divine nature. And this is what the Abrahamic religions had to address this and distort it so that they could get past this, so they could control you. So in the very beginning, what do they have? They have the serpent in the Garden of Eden telling Eve, and here's another way of destroying the feminine. The Garden of Eden myth is one way to destroy the intuitive power of Mother Earth and the feminine, because, Eve was the one who tempted Adam and all that, and, all of that nonsense. And then we have the patriarchal hatred of women, which comes into it. But the serpent is very clear. And by the way, the serpent isn't said that he's Satan in that myth. That comes later. That's an editorial interpretation that comes later in the Bible. But in that myth, he's not identified as Satan. He's not identified as a deceiver. He's telling the truth. And he says, why can't you eat the fruit of knowledge of good and evil? You'll become like God. Why does God not want you to? That doesn't make any sense to me. Does that make sense to you? She goes, no, that doesn't really make sense to me. And when she eats of the fruit, then the distortion comes in. Because what truly happens when you eat the fruit of knowledge, it's knowledge of the self. You actually expose your divinity. You become authentic. You become empowered. You become transparent. You are seen for who you truly are, which is a divine being that rules this earth. You are the ruler of this earth. Now, if you want to control somebody with religion, you turn that around and you turn it into shame, which is what happens. The reason that supposedly God knew they had eaten of the fruit was that they were shameful. They were hiding their nakedness. And that's how God knew. Oh, you feel shameful. You must have eaten the fruit. But that's an assumption. The truth is, when you eat the fruit, the knowledge of your true essence, you will confront your shame. You will confront your shame and you will overcome it, and you will be proud. You will stand naked in front of the universe, because you are naked in front of all of the beings outside of the third dimension. So what's going to happen is that the moon is going to shift from Pisces, a water sign, into Aries, a fire sign. And at 0 degrees, this is very important, Rahu is at 0 degrees of Aries. Now, any planet that is at 0 degrees becomes incredibly dynamic. It's not the same kind of dynamism that happens when you've got a planet that has, a lot of, 25 degrees or something. It means that in this case, Rahu is leaving Aries and heading towards Pisces, the sign of deep meditation. And at 0 degrees, a planet becomes activated in a very dynamic way. And the moon is coming and will be at 0 degrees. And so Rahu represents, the reason why Rahu and Ketu are split is because in the third dimension, we are not capable of experiencing Naga energy in its pure form, because we are dualistic in our thinking. And what makes Rahu and Ketu poisonous, again, the poison part of enlightenment, what makes them poisonous is that just because we're in the third dimension, we split, we cut that energy in half. We take this very high dimensional energy and we try to split it into 2 dimensions. Because our third dimensional intellect, the intellect actually creates dualism. The word intellect is not your mind. Your mind is your ability to reflect the spirit. It is your emotional nature. The intellect, which is what most people, when they call the mind, they mean the intellect. And the intellect is a Latin word, and it's a beautiful description of what the intellect does, because the intellect is a third dimensional software. It is not part of your higher dimensional personality. When you die, your intellect will die because it cannot leave the third dimension. Intellect means to pick apart from among. Intellegere. Legere means to pick apart. Inte means from inside. To pick apart from inside. And this is what happens when you read the word leer or legere in Latin means to pick apart. And that's what happens when you read Roman script, because they don't have punctuation. They don't have words and sentences and commas. It's just a bunch of letters strung together, and you have to know the language well enough to be able to pick out all of the words so you can read it. If you don't know the language, you won't be able to put anything together. So you have to pick apart from among. So legere means to pick apart. Intellegere means to pick apart from among many. To make two. Up and down, left and right, good and bad, light and dark. And this is why the snake has been split. Because our intellect, when it's presented with the truth of the serpent, which is divinity, higher dimensional divinity, our intellect says, I can't process that. Let me just turn it into something dual. So what ends up happening is the serpent becomes fractalized or split apart into these two reflections that act as these shadow reflections around our Earth. So that when planets and the sun and the moon and other luminaries come into contact, these shadow lenses then make things more dualistic so that we can process it. It keeps us in the third dimension, but there is a price to pay. So Rahu and Ketu are these shadow planets of karma and dharma. So what will happen is you will be forced, if you're not following a spiritual path, these shadows will influence you, and you will be forced to look at things in a black and white manner, and that will turn it into poison. It will become poisonous to you, but it's a poison that will keep you in your third dimensional mindset. Rahu turns into your addictions, your obsessions, your third dimensional pride, your third dimensional ego, which means devaluation. You can't have ego with, three-dimensional ego without devaluing yourself. Ketu represents the higher dimensional spirit aspect, which on the third dimension equals death. Because the only way that we truly see the spirit for what it is when we die. So Ketu, in my experience, has a very strong association with light beings, what we would call extraterrestrials, because these beings operate from a higher dimension, and whenever they communicate with us, we die. This is why, as I've said before, so many people associate extraterrestrials with the devil, because what ends up happening is that if you interact with their energy, your third dimensional attachments start to come apart, and that feels like it's killing you. And anything that we perceive as a threat, we turn it into something evil. So Ketu represents death, leaving this third dimension. Rahu represents becoming more entrenched in this third dimension. And that's only because the head and the tail have been split apart. But Vasuki actually is a complete entity. His head has not been cut off. He is the higher dimensional aspect of this. Rahu brings forbidden knowledge, psychic powers, true understanding of concepts, the ability to evolve if you're connected to your soul. Ketu represents connection to pure spirit. That's why there's K2 has no head, because head means ego, means avatar. It means who I think I am based on my programming. So K2 destroys that, cuts the head off of that. But if you go with that and you go directly into K2, you will become more connected to spirit. So K2 represents a shaman, because shamans don't see the future, they feel it. This is why when I do interdimensional meditation, I don't have big visions. I have to do my best to try and create a vision for what I'm experiencing. But if I had stronger Rahu associated with my spiritual powers, I would be able to see these visions. But what ends up happening is I feel the energy. It's a bodily experience that is translated, and that's because because of my astrology and my K2 and my Jupiter, etc., etc. So what's going to happen for those who are spiritually minded? Rahu will reveal the secrets. And since this is happening in the sign of Aries, which is a Mars sign, and because it's directly opposite some other very powerful things going on, you have directly opposite that, you have Sun, Mars, Mercury, and Ketu. So these are going to be aspecting Jupiter, Rahu, and the Moon. Moon and Rahu will be conjunct, which is going to be the eclipse. And then Jupiter is retrograde and is very close and is activating it. So there's going to be some spiritual karmic revelations that will come. This is what we know just by Jupiter being there. The negativity is revealed for what it truly is. What just happened? I lost data. Give me a second if you can hear me. Okay, looks like I'm back now. And directly opposite that is Mars, Ketu, Mercury, and Sun. So obviously Ketu is directly opposite Rahu, but Mars, Mercury, and Sun have a direct seventh house aspect on what's happening, which means that Mars is a warrior. The focus of a warrior on a spiritual plane is to bring transformation and to fight negativity. So Mars wants to reveal the hidden corruption that is happening. He's aspecting his own sign of Aries, which means the power of Aries, the warrior, is going to be extremely powerful. And Mercury is the intellect, so people will have the ability to become intellectually aware of what is happening. You know, it's very interesting what's happened to me over the past, few years. But if you were watching my channel 3 years ago, you remember that although I was a spiritual person and I came down on religion and programming through religion, I was touting the narrative of, government and the media. I thought that the media was telling us the truth. I came down on anybody who came down on the mainstream media, or, I was in a completely different thought process. And certain politicians who, that I didn't like because they were against the narrative. I really thought that they were evil. I really was hypnotized into believing these were evil people. And after becoming aware of what was happening during the the lockdowns and all that, and what all of that was really doing, and then I became aware of there really is a deep state dark force that's ruling this world. And when I became aware of all of that, all of a sudden that cloud over my vision was gone, and I could see that those politicians who I thought were actually evil weren't evil at all. They're human, they're imperfect in all kinds of ways, but they were speaking the truth the whole time. And I'm bringing this to mind because this is what I believe is going to happen. It may not happen immediately. It might not be an instantaneous thing. But the end result of this eclipse is that people are going to start, the veil is going to be lifted and they're going to see what's really going on. Before that happens, there's going to be more darkness that will come. That is something that I am seeing in the astrology, but it's more coming from a direct communication that I received in one of my recent meditations. Darkness is coming, and we have to be prepared for that. But that darkness that is coming, which could result in more of the same kinds of things. By the way, in case you don't know, if you haven't been watching, I just stumbled onto this, but there was a Category 5 hurricane that hit Acapulco. That's a big deal in and of itself. But what is most incredibly unbelievable and incredible about it is that it turned from a tropical storm to a Category 5 hurricane, which is the strongest hurricane possible, in 24 hours. I've never seen anything like that. Nobody was prepared. There was no meteorologist that saw this coming, which means that Acapulco had no warning. Normally, before it hits land, it's going to start out as a Category 1, and then a few days it's going to turn into Category 2, and then another day it's going to be Category. I know, because I watched that happen when I lived through 2 hurricanes in Florida. One was a Category 5 and one was a Category 1 hurricane is no joke. A tropical storm is no joke, but most people can get through it. Maybe you lose a little bit of, pieces of your roof, or, some trees fall down and a lot of rain. I mean, tropical storms are no joke either, but there's a huge difference between a tropical storm and a Category 5 hurricane. And I've never seen anything like this. I've never seen a tropical storm right offshore within 24 hours go from a tropical storm to a Category 5 hurricane. And at the same time, there was an earthquake. So you fill in the blanks. I don't think that's a natural phenomenon. I do not think that has anything to do with climate change or global warming. I believe it has to do with dark forces who are attacking human beings in every way possible. And there's no coincidence that it landed smack dab right on top of Acapulco, one of the most popular tourist destinations for Americans and Westerners. It's a huge source of income, tourist income for Mexico. And to me, you've got what happened in Maui, you've got what happened in Libya, you've got what happened in Turkey, you've got what was been going on in China. Probably haven't heard of all of the absolutely unbelievable crazy things, all of the crazy fires in North America, all of the fires in Louisiana. I mean, it's a swamp down there. That's just absolutely nuts. And again, more hurricanes, other places in the world. This isn't happening by accident. These are, I believe, they're done intentionally. So we're going to find out who's behind all this. I know that there's huge things going on behind the scenes in United States government, where you've got at least 1,000 whistleblowers from black projects, military projects, and technology in the United States. And I know that there are people working to get that information out to the public. The nonsense you're seeing with David Grush and the others who are talking about UFO retrieval programs is a smokescreen. It's nonsense. But I believe there's a very good chance all of this will come to the surface. But before it does, Unfortunately, the only way that people wake up is when things get bad enough. I didn't wake up until my reality was destroyed. And then I was forced to awaken to the truth. And the reason why we resist it is because our instincts are to deal with what's happening and make everything okay. Find a way to function and make things work, as they are. We're not designed to, want to see the worst possible things. When somebody gets a horrible illness, their first response is to talk themselves into why it's going to be okay. We look for hope, and we feel comfortable when we are allowed to believe that our third dimensional, illusion, our third dimensional hypnotic state is intact. We feel comfortable. So nobody likes to awaken from their hypnosis. Nobody enjoys that. So in order for people to awaken, I'm getting some energy as I talk about it, there's going to have to be more darkness that will get so bad that people have to wake up. And things have to get, this again is what happened during the lockdown and all that. As I said, that's how I became aware that there actually was dark forces controlling things on very high levels. I wouldn't have seen that if they hadn't done that. If they hadn't done the things that they were doing over the past 3 or 4 years, I wouldn't have seen that. I would still be blissfully ignorant. So it took that, seeing that millions of people were being murdered for profit. That's what woke me up. I had this, and it was a very painful realization. So that's going to have to be the case for those who haven't woken up yet. There's going to have to be enough darkness and tragedy that will finally force them to wake up out of their slumber. But this could result in the awakening of the planet. I don't know the time, what the schedule is on when the Ascension is going to come, when the Ascension event is going to come. I don't know. I've stopped trying to, predict specific times. But I know other people who have had visions and experiences. Many people keep coming back to the year 2025. That makes sense to me. And we're now in the latter half of, the very end of 2023. And things are going to continue to be chaotic and perhaps, frightening and shocking for the rest of this year. And it might not be until the beginning of next year that we start to have more of a positive awakening out of this. But this will result in awakening. This will result in knowledge. This will result in revelations of the truth. But as I said, unfortunately, things may have to get worse before they get better. Now, I'm not attached to this. This isn't a psychic prediction. As I said, I did have some things shared with me in meditation. I could have interpreted it wrong. I don't need to be right about it. I don't need to be a prophet. So I don't. I would be happy if I turned out to be wrong and everybody starts to just wake up naturally and everything's beautiful. But that's not what my instincts say. So this eclipse today and tonight is incredibly powerful opportunity for spiritual practice. So during this, what I would recommend that you do is I recommend that you do, if you have a mantra, do your mantra, do your meditation, do your energy work. Do the hul breath. Do the huar breath. Don't go out if you can help it. I'm going to be tomorrow, which will be, hours after. I'm going to be, I am going to be having to do some short, distance travel, travel half an hour or something. I wouldn't. If I didn't have this, if I hadn't already agreed to do this, this appearance there, I wouldn't get in my car and drive. Having said that, if you're conscious about it, I think it's okay. But the point I'm trying to make is, if you can, stay at home, meditate, do your energy work, really focus on yourself. If a bunch of really uncomfortable feelings come up, look at them. If resentments come up, because this might trigger a lot of anger in people. If your resentments come up, go and do the 4th step as I've laid out. Go to the playlist, the 12 steps to 5D, and do step 4 and 5. But at the very least, begin writing those things down and looking at how your attachments are creating your resentments. When we get into the next world, when we get to this next place, there won't be any room for that. There won't be any room for resentments. So now's the time to let all that come to the surface and move past it. There won't be room for victim mentality. The vibration won't allow it. So the good news is I've told you there's been people in my life who've completely lost it, gone completely bonkers, and have been attacking me in the most, crazy, cruel ways I've ever seen. I'm starting to see them sort of come out of that. The beginnings of them sort of starting to come out of that. And I think that's a good litmus test for what is happening now. Up until this, coming up to this point, the spiritual pressure has been so strong that the anxiety that people feel and all of the unresolved emotional issues that have been coming up have been so intolerable. People haven't even been able to literally know objective reality staring them in the face. And people are starting to now seem to be sort of like trying to wake up from it. And it's painful, and it's going to be a long process, but we'll see. I think that's what's heading, and I think that is going to be the result of this very, very powerful lunar eclipse. Okay, so that's it. That's my update for today. I'm happy to take a look and see what people have to say. Again, I tend not to answer questions if I get the sense that you're not familiar with my channel, because I tend to get annoyed when people ask me questions that aren't related to what I'm talking about. But everybody is doing their best and they know what they know. So, Pure Life Science, congratulations, keep it up. Welcome to the channel, Meredith. Okay, yep, that's welcome to the channel. I hope it's a helpful one for you. Okay, I don't see anything else here. That's great. Well, so that's it for me today, my friends. If you're new to the channel, it's not about listening to me talk. This channel is about giving you literal tools that will shift you. So forgive me if I explain to you what this shift is going to be. Based on what I have been told over the past year and a half directly from extraterrestrial light beings, and as well as working directly with the sun and the moon and deities. All of this is very new to me, by the way. I've done spiritual work my whole life, but a year and a half ago, a 7-foot mantis being responded to my request for interaction, and that being came and did Shaktipat, put his finger on the top of my crown chakra, and I have never been the same. I now have the ability, I'm not bragging, it's just anybody can do it. I now have the ability to communicate directly with deities, communicate directly telepathically with light beings. I'm able to do and communicate in ways, travel to different dimensions in ways I never have before. And so what I have been shown is that there is going to be an Ascension event. We are in the midst of what they call a solar wave event, which is a series of solar radiation waves that are hitting the earth and shifting everything up. This is why people are flipping out, because the frequency is shifting up. However, we are in this phase right now. It's a very critical phase where human beings must make a decision. They must choose. The shift will not happen by itself. We can't just sit back and wait for it to hit us and shift us up. When it hits us, we will be forced to choose which way we want to go. If you hold on to your attachments to this third dimension, which is a very natural thing, you will slip further down into, the unresolved issues that you have, and you will stay in a lower frequency of Earth. It will not be pleasant. If, however, you decide to shift in a more positive direction, dropping victim mentality, dealing with resentments and anger, being willing to learn new aspects about reality and yourself, that might be very challenging for you, then you will shift up to a new harmonic of Earth, a higher harmonic of Earth. And now, if you're like me, you're going to need some help. I have been doing energy practices and meditations my whole adult life. And the good news is, instead of trying to force yourself to become more spiritual and more, you don't have to do that. You can start literally by turning the knob on your own energy and turning the frequency up. The result of that is your attachments and your issues will come to the surface, and you will have to experience them, feel them, and let them go. If you fight that, it'll push you down. If you go with that, you will shift up. But many people need very simple practices. Just very simple mudras and practices which do all kinds of things which I share on this channel. So go to the playlist and do the Awakening the Immortals, which you can find in the Qigong folder. You can do any of the Qigong, I don't care, but that's the most powerful. Go to the playlist of the 12 steps to 5D and do those. And then go to the playlist where I have the guided interdimensional meditations, where you can have that same experience that I did. The Huul breath, H-U-U-L breath, is very powerful and healing. The Huar breath, H-U-A-R, which you can listen to or learn how to do, will shift you up. That mantra, the Huar, is actually a mantra given to me by that same mantis being, and it is the sound of the Ascension. If you want to chant the actual sound, whether mentally or with your voice, you will chant the actual sound, vibration of the earth ascending to a higher frequency. It is my belief that once we get there, people all over the world will be chanting that sound like people now chant Om. I believe it'll be of that powerful nature. We'll see. I'm happy to be wrong about that too. But if you chant that, you will shift up. Then when you're serious, when you feel the energy and you know that this is what you want to experience, you want to be part of this particular tradition that I have received, go here to thunderwizard.com and subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. You can unsubscribe whenever you want. You can get very simple instructions. Just press play, follow the instructions. You don't have to try and force yourself to become spiritual. The practices will shift your vibration up, and then you can deal with what comes up. And as I said, this is the most powerful energy practice in the history of planet Earth in my experience. And I challenge you to prove me wrong. Follow my instructions to the letter, and I guarantee you will have a shift. My books you can find at michaelwilliamdenny.com, or you can just go to Amazon, Kindle, or Audible. Most important is most important is The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life, and then my two books about extraterrestrials. Extraterrestrials Are Coming to Earth, and Interdimensional Revolution, where I prove to you the difference between false alien human psyop that's been going on for 60 years and actual higher dimensional extraterrestrials. And I prove that to you in there, what that is. Okay, I've done all of my business now. Let's see, does anything come up? Rona, I don't know if you're subscribed, but I'll read your feeling anyway. You say, grateful for the summoning the immortals. 3 ones, it saved my life, doing the practice daily. Thank you. Yeah, this stuff has this kind of power. The 3 ones meditation has the power to turn you into a divine immortal. That was the point of it. If you perfect that, you will shift out of this body. You won't have to wait for the ascension. You'll shift out of it. And a lot of these practices have that ability. So I'm happy to see that you also have had that experience. Okay, that's it for me. I got nothing else going on. I don't see anything else that I need to respond to. Thank you guys for showing up. I love you all. Take good care of yourselves. Be kind to yourself. Really make this a sacred day. Try not to do a whole lot. I'm already starting to feel it, like my body just needs to sort of cocoon and take care of itself, and I'm going to honor that. Even though there's huge waves out there, I'm just gonna take it easy today. And yeah, if the flash don't come, or I don't get beamed up to the Starship Enterprise, I will see you guys all very soon. And don't forget, we still have 923.thunderwizard.com. Every single one of my video courses, totaling thousands of dollars, at least $3,500, if not more, has been reduced to mere hundreds. And you get the most powerful Maoshan energy moving practice. If you want to have the practice of Maoshan sorcerers who had the ability to destroy evil spirits with their bare hands, if you want to be able to get that kind of energy flowing through your body and in your mind and in your spirit, and be able to literally walk into a haunted house, or walk into a place filled with demons and have all those negative entities run from you, go here to 923.thunderwizard.com. All right, that's all. I'll see you guys later. Thank you so much. Please be good to yourselves.